What's up, guys? Vincent here again. And today I thought I was going to go over some interview tips because I know a lot of my friends are stressed out about doing interviews in school. So um, I'm going to make this video and approach it the way I would if I could give myself advice before I bombed several interviews in my early career so that hopefully you guys can take away some of the lessons that I learned the hard way and do really great on your upcoming interview. And uh, to give some background on what kind of sparked my interest in doing interviews in the first place was I went to a career fair at UC Berkeley, which was arguably one of the better things I made, better mistakes I made in my time there. And I showed up looking very unprofessional, and I just walked up to some recruiters and proceeded to embarrass myself. And so a lot of this is kind of lessons that I've learned the hard way. And it makes it funny to me, but it also means like I'm trying to be someone who would just, sit myself down and say like, listen and don't, try not to make these mistakes, and you're going to do a lot better than I did back in my day. So, and I know I'm young, so talking this way. Anyway, so the very first thing that I think is very important for people when you're giving an interview is ask questions at the end. As weird as it may seem initially at first, like, you've told them a lot about yourself and you've told them how great you are and you've told them about, your experience, they're going to ask you, do you have any questions for me? And this question is a very important one because it is essentially the part of the interview where you show genuinely that you have interest in the company and what they have been telling you about what they're doing. They during the interview, your employer or hiring manager is going to be talking about what kind of challenges they have, what kind of product they make, and what you'll be doing. And if you're someone who just sits there like passively and just brags about yourself, and then at the very end when they're like, okay, we've told you all this, do you have any questions, and you just say no, not really, that sets a very bad leaves a very bad taste in their mouth, I feel, as an employer. Because if I just spent the time telling somebody about something and they don't really care, I feel like I've just been disrespected and I don't even know why I would want you on my team. So I am making this slightly exaggerated, but I hope it underlines my point, which is showing an interviewer or just a human being that you're interested in what they're saying and that you're listening well enough to understand it and then formulate your own question is a very good way to get people to like you and want to have you on their team. And this doesn't just apply to job interviews, this applies to pretty much everything in life, like your own relationships. So that is a very important thing that I would want to beat into myself when I was younger. Next item on the list is, what kind of questions should you ask during an interview that don't make you look like an idiot? Uh, my favorite question to ask when I'm in an interview is, what are the current challenges, or what are the biggest challenges you guys are currently facing? And if I can, I like to write down the questions so that I can think about them and, you know, just keep it in the back of my mind while someone is talking. And it really helps me when I'm in an interview to just have a pen and paper in front of me because it really calms me down because I'm someone who loves being able to kind of just think right now about the moment and not try to remember things that someone just told me so that later on I can come back and, dive into more detail about why a particular thing is interesting to me. Another thing, and this should be obvious, but you know, I'm sorry I have to say this. Be on time. And it isn't until after you kind of think about it from a different perspective, or for me, it wasn't until after I really thought about why is it so important to be on time that I really understand now why. Uh, if your interview is at 9 o'clock, the company is getting a lot of directors and a lot of very senior people booked out on their time schedules to be there at 9 o'clock sharp. And when you show up a minute or two late and you say, oh, I'm sorry, I was finding parking, there was traffic, whatever, that's never a good thing because you're basically implicitly telling them that your time is more important or that you lack the ability to show up and be punctual. And, I'm someone who, I'll admit it, I'm late here and there, but, if it's an interview and if it's something that's important to you, just, you know, even though you'll wait maybe 10 minutes, just show up early and be in the waiting room so that they can see you're there and you're ready to go as soon as you show up on the day to do it. Because even if you're a minute late, first of all, you're probably going to be having to run there and you're going to be out of breath and you're going to sound like an idiot while you're talking. But also, um, it really shows your employer and the team that you're going to be working on or with that you value their time too, and that you want to be there and help out and be respectful of their time as well. So that explicitly is why being on time is so important. And hopefully this goes without saying for most of you, but I know for me this was something that I definitely need to improve on, um, especially when you're dealing with in-person interviews are extraordinarily important. Um, this is another thing. I feel like when when especially if you've never done interviews before, they can be stressful. It can be very nerve wracking. It can be like dating. If you're new to dating, basically, there's going to be a lot of pressure that you're feeling to be that big, important, special guy who's accomplished a lot and is very knowledgeable. And it's good to be confident and be proud of yourself and your accomplishments. But at the same time, you need to be yourself and you need to come through. And for that reason, I strongly encourage people to, when you're giving an interview, just talk the way I'm talking right now to somebody. Like, don't try to use words you would never use. Don't try to brag about things that you're not familiar with. If someone asks you about something on your resume and you put it on your resume, be ready to talk about it, but also have the decency and the honesty to say, this was 3 years ago, and I haven't had the chance to really follow up on this in a while. But to my understanding, this is how this process works. This is why my work was relevant, and this is why I think your team would benefit from my experience doing X, Y, Z. But don't try to sit there and start lying about how knowledgeable you are in NMR if you've never used an NMR machine, but you were in an organic chemistry lab. Like, just be honest is another huge thing with this whole process, which is, if you're honest and, uh, you're just telling them how your experience and what you've done, it shouldn't be hard to just sit down with someone and tell them and speak genuinely as I am about why, my experience is relevant to what you want. And, here's another thing, if you've made it this far in the hiring process, they've already liked your resume, they've already probably spoken with you on the phone, you should be feeling, good about yourself because now they actually want to bring you on site because they really do care about you. So don't get discouraged if you feel like, I'm nobody, I'm going to mess this up, I'm feeling really bad right now. Just when you have these moments, just take a step back and tell yourself that I'm being interviewed for a reason. I'm being interviewed because clearly they liked me enough and they're investing a significant amount of their time now to bring me on site to actually see me in person. So, um, very much like dating, the girl or the guy really wants to be with you too. So, you take time out of your lives to spend time together. So, it should be beautiful, it should be exciting, and don't freak out about it too. It's just, this is part of being an adult, this is part of growing up, and I know it can be pretty challenging in college, especially if you are introverted. And another thing that I want to talk about is you will fail. You will make mistakes. You will bomb interviews. You will not hear back from people after you give an interview. And just accept that this is part of the process of life and of becoming a more mature professional, that, you know, not everyone's going to resonate with your story. Not everyone's going to click with what you have to sell. Maybe you get that far in the process and, it's really cool that they're willing to take the time to meet with you. But maybe after speaking with you, you didn't really seem like you would be a good fit for the team, because a lot of the time, these teams are, and this is characteristic of human nature, people will want to have people on their team that are similar to themselves in many ways. And I argue that diversity is a very good thing to have, but uh, statistically, you're going to be working with people who are probably majored in the same thing you've majored in, and they're passionate about the same things you're passionate about. And, it sometimes there's just conflict and you don't have the chemistry. Can't tell you how many dates I've gone on where the girl tells me that she doesn't like me anymore after we've gone on a first date because maybe I'm just not that fun of a person to be around. And but I accept it. It hurts on the inside a little bit, but you just you take it in stride and you move on. The worst thing that you can do is let it get to you and not bounce back, because this whole process is failing. And when you fail, when you look at successful people, like the guy who made FedEx, the first few companies he made sucked and no one cared about it. And look at Elon Musk and how much of a joke he was back in the day when, he was having to spend his own money paying his employees, and, they were almost at their last card. What makes someone successful is not, they didn't just get that way overnight. They actively tried and failed and tried again and failed again and kept trying to get where they are now. And they didn't let their failures drag them down. It will hurt, but they learned something from every single one of their failures. And, when you fail an interview, it should be a learning opportunity for you. And this is another point I wanted to talk about, which is like when I hear back from an employer telling me, thank you for coming on site. Thank you for spending the whole day with us. We really appreciate your time, but unfortunately, we're going to move forward with another candidate. I can't, you know, help but, I this is how you handle basically the worst case scenario, because this is the worst case scenario that's playing in your head, the night before an interview, which is, I'm going to bomb this, I'm going to do bad, I'm going to get rejected. The way you handle these situations is, number one, you stay professional. You don't get emotional about it. In the moment, you take the time to thank them for the time that they've spent interviewing you as well, and you really appreciate it, and you genuinely should appreciate it. But also make a point to ask them, if you can in person, if not through an email or a phone call, ask them, what areas were you needing improvement in to get this role, so that when you apply next time to this company or to the same position, you can be a stronger candidate. And as an employer, if I see someone come back to me after I've told them, I don't really like you, please, just, maybe next time, if you come back to me and tell me, I really want to work for you, I really like this position, I really like this company, and I want to be there, and I want to get there someday, that's going to make me take a step back and reevaluate you as a person too. You've just shown me that you have a lot more respect and professionalism than I think most people do, which is, when you get rejected, usually you're not even going to say anything. You're just going to walk away and, go apply to another job. But if you're someone who comes back to me and says, you know, I still really want to work here, I still really respect you, I'll feel genuinely that you have a lot more integrity than I previously thought. And it will make me respect you more as a person, so that, heck, if I have another opening come up, I can say, like, wow, I really remember John Smith. He's the guy who came back to me after I rejected him, and he still wants to work for me. So this is a guy I really want on my team. And, I know you have like a lot of mental energy that gets built up before interviews, and it can get really hard to uh, stay positive sometimes. But the way I handle these things is I'll usually just try to picture what I would want if I was the boss in this position, and just try to empathize with them and know that, they're going to have 5 or 6 other people that same day in for talking about this position. And, you're going to have to be someone who stands out somehow, and you're going to want to stand out in the good ways. So don't worry too much about it. And then also eye contact with people. This is a very kind of awkward, touchy feel, I think, for some people, because, looking at people's eyes can get a little weird, because it's like you're looking into their soul. And especially if you're introverted or you're someone who's used to just kind of looking down all the time, like, it's not necessarily something that you do naturally. And so this kind of goes back to the whole just be yourself thing, which is, if you're someone who if when I'm talking to you directly in person, if you're looking away like this and your eyes are just constantly not on the person who's talking to you, that can come off as disrespectful. And also, when I'm talking to you, if you can't see my eyes, it also shows that, like, the message that I'm trying to give you is not sincere. And so, it's something you just practice doing. And these are like human skills that, or interpersonal skills that, me as an introvert, I needed to actually practice and work on. So like these YouTube videos help me be a better person as well. And the interviews I do help me be a better person. Um, and yeah, so just try working on that, and don't be discouraged if, it seems weird at first, but you just keep doing it. And I think what you'll find at the end of the day, and this is a little bit deeper of a subject, but humans are naturally social animals. Like, we want to get to know each other. And even if you think you're someone who is super introverted, who really doesn't like people, who just, I want a desk job where I don't have to talk to anyone all day. I feel like deep down in your heart, you are someone who does want to do that. And it's just a matter of finding that person or finding that part of you. And, part of the way you find that person is just through basic eye contact and being respectful to other people. And a great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Carnegie, talks a lot about this. If you want people to be interested in you, the number one way to get there is to be genuinely interested in other people, care about other people, show that you're interested in other people and the problems that they have and how you want to help them with their problems, because that will win you the most friends at the end of the day than talking about yourself the whole time. Because, especially at UC Berkeley and the kind of experience I have at career fairs and these interviews, you find a lot of people who they're going to walk in as kind of like an alpha male, and they're going to start talking about how great their accomplishments are and why they're the obvious choice and no one else matters. And for me, that's a big turnoff. Like, I really don't want to be that guy. I just want to be the guy who gets along with my team and can contribute where I feel like I can contribute, and who speaks up when I think that there's something that we need to address or talk about. And so, like, that's a very important thing to take away before you give interviews. Um, and then another thing I'll say is, if you're someone who makes jokes or you have like a dry sense of humor that is appropriate, be that person. Show that person a little bit off in your interview. Like, show me that you're someone who has a sense of humor, because I think, as much as work can appear as dry and boring to many people, it's what you make of it. If you want your job to be fun and to have a good time with your colleagues professionally, show them that you can make a joke here and there as long as it's natural. If it's not natural, then, don't do it. But also, after you get hired, you're going to have an opportunity to really get to know your colleagues a lot better. And, a lot of this stuff will kind of take on new meaning, and it'll be fun. So, another thing, this whole process, I argue, should be fun. Don't let it get to the point where you're like, I'm just doing this because I need money. If you're at that point, it will show when you're at an interview that you're someone who is just working this job because you want my paycheck. And so, if you come off as that person where it's just the money that I care about and I have the experience, so just give me this job, please, no one is going to click with you. And even though you probably do have the experience to get this job, you're not going to get the job because you're not someone that other people would want to work with. You want people who are, good people working with you, not just good professionals, but good people. And so, this is what makes interviews and so interesting to me, is just like, this is your chance to really show that you are a human being. You care a lot about your work. You care a lot about the people you're working with. You care a lot about the product that the company is making or whatever services they're providing. And, you're going to fail, but you're going to keep practicing, and you're going to keep going. And eventually you're going to get that first job. And it's going to be really cool when you get that first job, because you'll know how hard it was to get there. And, it just makes everything so much more rewarding when you actually get there. So, I'm going to end this video here until I say anything that's too compromising about me. But it's, I really want these videos to be a way in which I can try to help people who are where I was back in my day, when I was in college looking for work. And, I think interviewing for jobs and getting educated and working and supporting your family, supporting yourself, being more independent. All of these things are great things that I really hope to inspire other people to do. And, just keep going at the end of the day. There's going to be bad moments, there's going to be bad times. You're going to get rejected. You're not going to hear back. The girl's not going to like you back. Uh, it's going to happen and it's part of life. And this was another thing in the book of how to win friends and influence people. Just smile and laugh and know that at the end of the day, this is all part of life and it should be fun and exciting. And thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you find it useful and I'll see you next time.